Okay, Thursday, May 6th. When I started doing this, I said that the word of the year for you is going to be insufferable. And today just showed so very much why. Your willful ignorance to understand mask mandates, COVID transmission, and um, herd immunity is is nonsense. You're an intellectual adolescent, and all of this whining is just a demonstration that deep down you are a petulant child. You're not matured. I'm sure you pitched this opening uh, segment about this article in the Atlantic about the politicization of masks, just so you could get in some more digs at your favorite enemy, Dr. Fauci. But it's just, I think Emmanuel Ocho at the end of the last segment said, prejudice is commitment to willful ignorance. And that's exactly defining you in this instance. You have this prejudice against COVID protocols that you have not let go. And what a legacy for you to have spent the entire pandemic just bitching. We know things about this virus, right? And how it's transmitted. It's airborne, right? The closeness and length of time you're with someone who is infected increases your chances of getting infected, right? Those chances are lower outside. We've had enough information. Yes, things have changed over time because we've learned more about this virus over time. No one's been intentionally trying to fuck over, your summer. So it's just incredibly dishonest of you to say that this has been confusing. It hasn't been confusing. And it's fine. If you don't want to wear a mask outside, it's fine. The CDC guideline, by the way, said it's safe to not wear a mask outside unless you're in a crowd with strangers. So I don't know about this article, whether or not they were talking about the liberal New Yorkers, and I know you haven't been in New York since the pandemic started because you really showed your intestinal fortitude by running away. Everywhere in New York is crowded with strangers. So it just makes sense to keep the mask on. And if people covering their face is such a trigger for you, you're going to have to rethink all of your life choices. It shouldn't matter that other people want to maintain their own health and safety. In case you haven't noticed, allergies are reduced. The common cold and common flu were reduced this year. Masks are not a bad idea when out in public. Now, the politicization of the whole thing started from the right. It's continuing from the right. Now saying, oh, these liberals aren't following the science. We are still following the science. And you also said Republicans get told to follow the science all the time, talking about climate change. Are you trying to say that you don't believe that climate change is real? Because that's a bridge too far, but and a whole other day. But the science on mass protection has been pretty clear. The politicization, yes, through most of the pandemic, most of last year, the people who were willfully flouting mask mandates and walking around with their freedom without their mask, I'm not covering my face, were seen as not caring about their own community, not caring about public health and safety, as being very selfish. So is there probably a little bit of a holdover from that people don't want to take their mask off because they don't want to appear to be part of the group of people who were COVID deniers and, rabble rousers like you, making everything more difficult to try to control the virus? Probably. And people keeping their masks on to help control spread shouldn't really bother you. Then we talked about the Olympics and banning Black Lives Matter garb. And you're a moron. The Olympics has long had a history of not having, of not tolerating any kind of political stance, and has issued edicts before. They issued one specifically about this after, interviewing all sorts of people in all sorts of countries to try to figure out what do people feel about it, that are participating, because it is a particular political movement of the moment. And Whoopi is right. There are plenty of ways to get your message across that don't involve having the T-shirt. But your insistence that the Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, is garbage. You're just going to throw the whole thing out. Look, and saying, we shouldn't be having the Olympics in Beijing. And we probably shouldn't, but these are decisions that are made a decade out, because there's an incredible amount of planning and building that has to happen in order for the Olympics to come off. And you're concerned about China reaping benefits. I don't know if you're aware, but for the vast majority of modern Olympics, the host cities don't actually make a profit because they're so expensive to host. And you're mad at Joe Biden for not taking a stance about the US teams going to Beijing. If you are so angry about the genocide in China, that's what you should be trying to stop. Trying to stop the Olympics is just hurting the athletes. And I don't know, I assume Beijing is rebuilding everything. I think the last time, didn't they have that big bird's nest stadium that then after the Olympics they just let fall apart? It's very wasteful. But so I'm sure they're rebuilding everything. So they're spending a shit ton of money on something that they're not going to make any money back, because spectators aren't going to get to go in crowds. So it's not an excuse to say, because China's losing money, they can go ahead and mass murder people. But if your issue is with genocide, that's what you should be calling on President Biden to be doing something about. The Olympics are going to happen. You can't just switch a host city a couple months out. It's not going to happen. Oh, and then you really like Will Smith. Oh my God. I highly doubt that's reciprocated. And then you went on a soliloquy about how you love your body. All the things you've been through this year. You know what, honey? Women have babies all the time. Glad that you love your body. That's great. Okay. So I think that was it for today. You just being a petulant little brat about masks again. And tomorrow we have the head of the CDC. So I'm sure you'll have some snotty question comment for her.